Hello everyone, Cpt.AirWolf here. It seems like it's been forever since my last post, but I felt it was time to update all of you guys on Project Airwolf, just to let you know where the project stands at the moment and why things have been taking so long for release. So basically what happened was in November of last year, Asobo finally released its heli flight model. And Airwolf prior to that was set up, as most of you know, to run using Fred's excellent Airland FS add-on. But the problem with that is the add-on, of course, wouldn't have worked for Xbox users, and it would have also meant, the hassle of having to run it in the background and whatnot. So I was really keen on trying to get everything converted over to Asobo's new flight heli model. Unbeknownst to me, that was going to be a far greater challenge than I thought, because there's not really solid documentation on how to get all that done. So that said, what I'm going to show you guys today is very much still a work in progress. There are so many things that have to be tweaked and sorted out, but I am quite happy with how things are going so far. And yeah, I just figured I'll take a moment to show you guys where everything is at, and you guys can be the judge of what it's looking like so far. I'll talk a little bit more in the video later as for how I plan to probably release the chopper out into the wild, but let's start by taking a look at it so far. So everything you're about to see is running in-game without any add-ons of any sort, so yeah, let's start. So first of all, we're going to start the engines. There are two turbines powering the Bell 222. Each generate about 620 horsepower. So all of that stuff is modeled in the game, as well as the torque values being applied, the lift coefficients. Asobo did an excellent job of giving access to all of that. Of course, doesn't mean that you don't have to play around with it and tweak it. But so basically, what I did there is I don't have the cold start all set up in the interior yet, which is why I sort of skipped that part. Obviously, my goal is to get all that stuff set up, but that's going to take some time because all my animations had to be renamed and whatnot. But this is just a quick start using the Control E key on the keyboard to get going. You can see there that as you start to start the engines up, the rotors just by themselves start to generate lift, and there's like a coning applied. So you'll see that they were sagging and now they're sort of slowly starting to straighten out. You can actually see too that it's applied just a slightest amount of lift on the gear as well, so it's not sagging as much as it was. I can actually show you guys what that looks like in game just by actually playing with the cyclic. So watch what happens to the gear as I play with the cyclic. I'm actually applying some forces on that gear, and it's realistically flexing under that load. You can actually see on the bottom, as I'm applying cyclic, you can actually see that my collective, which is that purple triangle, is actually sort of jittering back and forth. That's because it's actually applying a little bit of collective, even though I'm not applying it. I can also do the same thing with the tail, though right now I'm grounded, and so you're not seeing that effect because of the friction of the wheels. And so with that said, let's take her off for a little spin. So like I said, everything you're about to see is 100% in the Asobo engine and not using any third-party support. So I'm going to apply some collective. And there we go, we're airborne. We're going to get that gear up. I do have sounds for the gear, I just haven't applied them right now. I'm focused mainly on the flying dynamics. She is quite unwieldy. One thing I've got to adjust is the moment of inertia. I find like that she's a little bit too nimble. That's going to be one thing that I'm going to have to play around with to try and get just right. Obviously, my focus right now is going to be to make it fly like a Bell 222 first. And once that's achieved, I'll see what I can do about making it more like Airwolf as a secondary option. Sorry there, I had some sound in the background. So yeah, let's bring her back in for landing. Like I said, don't be dismayed if you find that the chopper doesn't seem to be behaving well. That's basically what I'm doing right now, is trying to tweak all that stuff. And at some point as well, I'm going to try and get some feedback from the community as far as what can be improved there. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get her back on the ground. So we're going to get the gear out again. And the gear does function exactly the way it would on the real chopper, in that it will compress as you land. I'm probably going to butcher this horribly, but let's see if I can put her down here. There we go. I'm going to apply the brakes. Okay, should get that collective down first. There you go. And all the contact points are in there as well, so I'm going to do something obviously you wouldn't want to do right now, but if I apply a little bit of collective, you'll see there that I can actually cause the tail strike there on the left boom. And if I just give her a tiny bit of collective here, I can actually ride on the front wheel only. There you go. Get some brakes. So yeah, I'm quite happy with how the gear is functioning, and the weights all seem correct. All of the values from the actual chopper have been put in to the system. So right now the main thing is just tweaking the moment of inertia. So unfortunately with the engine, this is one of the things that I will credit Fred for with Airland FS, is that it seemed a lot simpler to plug in the actual values and get seemingly accurate flight model with his. Not that I've ever flown a Bell 222, but based on videos I've seen and what people were saying. Whereas the Asobo one, it does require a little bit more finessing. But one of the great things about it is that I know that Asobo is passionate about improving the sim, and so it's just a matter of time before they go in there and tweak everything until it's just right. So that's kind of exciting. But I am quite happy with where things are right now. So at some point, I want to get this out into the wild and get some opinions from people. So here's what I'm thinking is going to happen in terms of release. I don't want to delay this obviously another year just to try and get what I think is perfect. What I'm thinking I might do is release an alpha version of the chopper when I feel it's worth let's say $20 is what I'd probably end up releasing it for. And those people that do buy that alpha version of the chopper will get free updates for the life of the product. And so as the product improves, from user feedback and such, all of the updates will be free, including any add-ons. So things like, mission, scenery, stuff like that, everything is going to be sold as the same product, essentially. I'm not going to be, micromanaging several different products and charging for them. It'll all be sold under the AirWolf project itself. So that's where things are with the AirWolf project right now. It's going really well, and I'm not going to give a timeline as for when that alpha will be available, but I will say that I'd like to get that done as soon as possible, because I feel that the community is going to play a huge role in making sure that the actual flight model is more accurate. There are people out there that have actually flown the chopper, obviously not AirWolf, but the Bell 222, that will be able to give me some excellent feedback on what it's supposed to feel like. So I feel the sooner it's in those people's hands, the better. I will say a few things in regards to some of the features that were working that I unfortunately had to lose. So right now the supersonic flight had to be pulled out. Part of that has to do with the fact that with the internal flight model, there was no way for me to switch the actual flight model. And so I'm actively trying to find a way that I can get that back in while still maintaining the actual heli flight model. It's probably going to be a little tricky because, as you guys know, AirWolf, when its boosters were active, was not flying like a helicopter, right? It was flying more like a jet at that point, which is easy to fake on TV, not so easy to fake when you're trying to use an actual simulator game engine. And unfortunately, I don't have the means to write a WASM module for the chopper, which would probably solve that problem, because with a third-party WASM module, I could write the flight model myself, or someone could help, and it would just swap from literally one flight model to another when you apply the boosters. But, you know, never say never. There might be someone out there who's familiar with that stuff who might want to reach out and help write that. And so the goal here is basically, you know, let's get Airwolf as accurate and as can possibly be done. And if that involves other people, I'd sure love the help from the community. So with that said, thank you so much for your support and your patience with this project. It means the world. And I'm going to be looking at getting it out as soon as possible for you guys. Thank you so much, and stay tuned. I'll be trying to post more update videos very shortly. Bye. Airwolf out.